I do think that there are many instances where differing views make it impossible to maintain and have the intensity of some relationships, but it doesn't mean you can't be friends with these people.
I can't stress enough how much I think it is so important for people to have their own ideas and their own opinions. Otherwise, we live in a world of sycophants and an echo chamber where there's no conversation, there's no learning, there's no progression, there's no change.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Life Uncut. I'm Laura.
I'm Brittany, and nothing keeps you more humble, I tell you what, than you lot. Like, I came in here today vibing myself. I thought I looked winter chic.
You do look winter chic.
Winter
welding yak chic.
I have a beautiful little winter knit on that's like short with short sleeves, so it's like that in between because we're actually 2 days out of winter. And some new knee-high boots. Well, I've had them for a couple of weeks, but they're like fashion, F-A-R.
We need to take a photo of these.
This whole thing's on YouTube. So anyway.
Okay, put your leg up in the air. Anyone on YouTube,
on,
come and have a squiz.
I've got a short skirt.
They are, imagine if you had boots that went all the way up to your labia and then you folded them back down on yourself.
Your labia comes to your knee. Mine doesn't. My boots come to my knee.
Well, then they wouldn't be as folded over as yours if they were to my labia. But I'm saying, like, imagine if your boots came all the way up to your upper thigh and then you folded that down over the boot.
It's just a double layered boot. It's big in Paris. I love them. It's a vibe. Don't be jelly.
Okay, they remind me of, and I said I like them, but I'm just telling you what they remind me of. They remind me of like welding work boots. So if you're working with like molten metal and also the bottom of a yak. Combine those two things.
Producer Keisha literally just said I look like a yak. She goes, "What's that animal with heaps of hair down the front?" Thanks, guys. Yeah. I tell you what, humble.
I woke up this morning and I have the start of a stye. And it's
sucked in.
I know.
Calm as a bitch.
It's the most annoying thing ever. And I was sitting in the bathroom and I was like, what do I do? Do I pop it? Do I touch it?
No.
How do you deal with a stye?
I know what to do. You teabag yourself. Not Maddie J, but you put
That's probably how I got it in the first place.
What, he teabagged you with his teeth? That's not how you make babies. You actually get like a green, I'm pretty sure it's green. It's a specific type of tea bag. Producer Keisha will look it up right now. Green tea bag, and you soak it in the water, and then you lay down and you put the whole tea bag on your eye. I promise you this is a thing.
When I was growing up, I used to get them really bad. My grandma used to always say that you should rub a gold ring on it. That's like an old wives' tale, that if you get a stye, you rub a gold ring on it.
So Matt also rubbed his ring on it.
Which is, when you think about that, how... I
don't want to think
Not
about
Matt. When you think about a gold ring.
So dirty.
It's so unhygienic. What a stupid old wives' tale. Hey, so you have an infection in your eye, rub something that's clearly not clean on your eye to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what's worse between having a stye and having hemorrhoids. I'm fucking done with the day.
Wow, that escalated.
I'm done.
You know, no one would have known you had hemorrhoids if you didn't throw it in there.
But I love that
you're like, let me just tell you everything's wrong with me right now. What else is wrong with your labia?
If you've vaginally birthed 2 children, I'm going to take a punt that you've got hemorrhoids.
I don't think it's 100%, but but it's a high stat.
I reckon you'd be pretty good. If you place that bet though, if your life depended on it, do they, don't they? If there's a game of hemorrhoid roulette, you'd be pretty good saying yes if that person's got 2 kids. It's Monday morning right now here in the studio, and that is a lot even for me, and I've done it.
Well, thank God I don't have a stye, but the time has come. Today is Monday. Ben is arriving tonight. He's on a plane right now. So when you guys are listening to this, we could still be having sex. He would have been here for about, if you download this first thing in the morning, producer Keisha wants to cut that out. I can see her eyes rolling. If you listen to this first thing in the morning, he would have been here at like 11 p.m. that night. So I'm very, very excited. I'm very glad I don't have a stye in my eye. If I woke up with a stye on D-Day, I'd be devastated.
Can I tell you, so my stepbrother listened to the episode that we did last week when we were talking about Neil, my stepdad. He was like, I'm really grateful for how you spoke about everything. He goes, however, I just want to make a note. I probably won't listen to any more episodes after listening to Britt talk about her boyfriend coming in her for the 10-minute start of that episode. He's like, it really did me over. He was like, interesting trajectory that your podcast takes, how you managed to talk about that stuff, then go into palliative care and then talk about whatever else else it was that we covered on that episode. It was a real roller coaster of an emotion.
Yes, it is. And sometimes that's what happens. I guess that's what life uncut is, right? Bit of A, bit of B, bit of high, bit of low.
Bit of everything. Well, we do have I think it's a very interesting episode for you guys today. We're talking about whether you can maintain friendships and relationships with people who have very differing views to you, whether it be political, whether it be religious, but obviously we have a few things to cover first. Britt, do you have any plans for whilst Ben is here? Like, is there any, apart from just being excited for him to be landing in the country this evening, is there anything else that you have going on?
Oh, yeah. So we've booked basically, he's here for 3 weeks and it's pretty nonstop. Like every weekend is a long weekend because I want to try and show him different parts of Australia. And we also need to try and fit my family in as well, who in Port Macquarie. I'm taking him deep sea fishing. We're going back to Hamilton Island. We're going to the Gold Coast so he can meet two of my really close friends up there. Because the thing is, we've been together, I don't know, over 18 months now, and he doesn't really know anyone in my life. Like he's met you guys and my family, and that's it. Because I guess we only see each other every couple of months and we're always going on a holiday to spend our time together. So I really wanted him to meet my really close friends on the Gold Coast. So we're going to go out there, have some dinners, meet one of his friends in Byron Bay. It's actually a lot, but I'm most excited to take him deep sea fishing.
It's so
random.
It's so random, but it's also so cute. I feel like you guys are on and I guess it is, but you're always on a perpetual holiday when you're together.
Yeah.
So you're like, this is my life. What are you like?
But do you know what I said to Ben? I said, what are you most excited about? Because I've made all these plans. Because you have to plan it, right? Otherwise the time goes too quickly and you don't get anything done. And I was like, what are you most excited about? And he's like, to be honest, I'm just most excited about going for a walk with you and Delilah, holding your hand and just doing normal stuff. He's like, just walking down the street to the coffee shop, like that I go to every day because I call him at the same coffee shop every day, going to the dog park that I go to. He just wants to live those normal things. And to me, that was the best because I'm like, I've just made this amazing 3-week holiday and all he wants to do is literally go for a walk and hold my hand. Like, stop it. Like, that is the cutest thing.
Do you think that there is any possibility that he might propose? And I know we discussed
Remember
this
that episode?
Yes. But I'm curious as to how you feel about it and whether you think, because, you know, I mean, I say it like I don't know, like we talk about this stuff, but you guys don't know. So
I think I would probably be shocked if he didn't propose this year.
Okay.
But we have 3 more
You're like, he's got time.
Yeah. We've got 3 more holidays that we're together this year. Sometimes we'll be with Jay and Sherry over in Europe. Then we're spending Christmas together. We've got a few more little trips. But the way we have talked about our future and like our timeline of things like weddings or kids and moving, I'd be shocked if it's not 2024.
Yeah. You're like, it's coming.
I'm trying to give myself a buffer in case it doesn't happen. I'm like, I will be shocked if it's not by 2027. So yeah, but I don't know. I just can't see him doing it because I plan everything. He doesn't even know. How can he plan it? He doesn't even know where we're going or where we stay. He doesn't know anything because I do it all. So I'm like, unless you're just going to carry a ring around and hope that we hit somewhere aesthetic, but there's no one around and it's which I guess he could do, but
then you're also like planned a little bit because I want a nice photo of it. I want a memory video, 100%. Record that. I'll never forget like when Matt proposed and we went to Fiji and it should have been a dead giveaway that the guy set up a GoPro. But
he always sets up.
Well, no. As soon as I saw the GoPro, I was like, oh.
Did you think?
Yeah, I did a bit, but then he just started crying and I was like, what's going on? Because it didn't seem like he was happy.
Why have I never seen the video, actually?
I don't know, probably because I was like, I honestly for a second thought he was going to tell me something horrible like he had cancer because he just started crying.
And wanted to capture it on film.
But didn't do it in a way that seemed positive. He was crying and I was like, and then when he proposed, I was like, are you trapped right now?
Are you also dying?
Blink twice if you're okay with this. Blink twice if this is actually voluntary.
Is this still part of the contract?
Or is it just because I got pregnant? What's happening here? Nah. He cried because he was so overwhelmed by emotion, couldn't control himself.
Do you still have the video?
Yeah.
Can I see it?
I'm pretty sure it's on Instagram.
Is it?
Maybe.
I feel like I've never seen it.
Just without sound.
Maybe it was too triggering for me, so I didn't watch it.
Well, speaking of weddings, speaking of proposals, on the weekend just past, we went down to Mollymook. We took the kids down to Mollymook. It's like 3.5 hours from Sydney, if you're not familiar with it. It's right on the coast. But it's also where Matt and I got married. And it's the first time we've been down there since our wedding. And we went back to our wedding venue and we had such a sweet couple of days. But there's something really, there's something really odd about going back to your wedding venue on a day where it's just functioning like a normal restaurant. Because we were standing.
It doesn't have quite the magic. When there's like kids running around. And like.
I was like standing in the same spot and then had to ask like some 16-year-old waiter. I was like, can you take a photo of us? And
then did you explain it? We got married here.
And Matt was like, you don't need to tell this man our whole story. And I was like, oh, we got married here and we had the kids. And Matt was like, shut up, Laura.
And the dog.
And so then he was taking a photo and I was like, no, could you take a portrait? And anyway,
I always do that.
It was embarrassing.
I'll just flip it so I can use it for Instagram.
Flip it. God knows I'm not taking these for my own memories. I'm taking them for Instagram.
No, I don't care.
Flip the camera around. So anyway, it was really cute. But also it was kind of nice to have a little moment where we got to go back to where we said all of those beautiful things to each other and said our vows to each other. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. Be like, oh, remember that day and how much love there was and how much we love each other.
It was a beautiful day. But you know the thing, and you can probably see me about to laugh. The thing that I think of when I think of your wedding, I don't know why. And I hate that this is the first memory that popped into my head, but I can't ever forget when you and Matt we're trying to have that really cool moment. It's a video moment. It's a shot moment. It's a moment for the crowd. It's like whatever. But you were trying to fill all the champagne glasses up. You know when you have a tower of champagne glasses and you start at the top and it flows over? You had too many. And everyone was like, woo, at the start. And then it was like 20 minutes and they weren't even half full and you were still pouring. You were like, fuck it. You didn't even finish it. You were like, I'm done.
We did the champagne fountain. And my advice is if you have a champagne fountain at your wedding, you only need like 3 or 4 layers because otherwise...
Like 24 layers.
Also cost us a bomb. We had to empty out like 10 bottles of champagne to try and fill it. No one drank it and we had to pay for that champagne. Such a waste.
You didn't even fill it. It didn't even work because you cracked the shit.
It didn't even work.
That is so funny. Oh, that's really nice.
It was really nice. And
I'm happy for you. Would you renew your vows like at some point and go back there?
Yeah. So when we were there, Marley and Lola, when we were leaving, they started crying and they're like, but we didn't even get married. We didn't even have a wedding. And I was like, no, you've misunderstood what the purpose of today was. We will do that again. But yeah, I think 10 years. Don't you do like a wedding renewal or a vow renewal at 10 years?
Well, you don't have to, but like Hollywood does.
Yeah, we will.
I think Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber just did. They've been married for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, but they've been through a lot. They have lived a life, that couple.
And they're pregnant.
Good for them.
Yeah, well, anyway.
So you guys might have seen 2 weeks ago, there is a speech that has gone absolutely viral. And now it's Harrison Butker, who is an American footballer. And he gave a graduation speech at the Benedictine College, which is a Catholic college. People are incredibly divided around the values that were described in his speech. And the reason for that is because when you put it into context, firstly, yes, it is a Catholic college, but this speech was given to women, men, to people who have graduated from their degrees. So they have dedicated the last 3 to potentially longer, 5, 6, 7 years of their life.
And a lot of money because Americans have to pay a lot of money for their colleges.
To become qualified doctors, lawyers, surgeons, teachers, etc. So off the back of this, the thing that was so divisive is the part in his speech that he speaks about a woman's most important vocation in life. And that was, as described by Harrison himself, to be a wife or a mother.
Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother.
Now, we discussed this quite a bit a couple of weeks ago as to whether we would even talk about this on the pod. And the reason for that is because so many other podcasts and news outlets have covered it. We kind of felt like it was flogging a dead horse, even though I myself had made a video on Instagram about it and we've had lots of conversations internally. But the reason why we're talking about this now is because there has been more to the story. So Travis Kelce, who we all know is Taylor Swift's boyfriend, has come out on his podcast and has given a statement around this speech itself. And he's spoken about how even though he doesn't believe in Harrison's values, how he loves and adores him as a teammate and as a person.
Yeah, so on Travis's own podcast, he came out and said, I cherish him as a teammate. He's treated the family that I've introduced to him with nothing but respect and kindness. And that is how he treats everyone. When it comes down to his views and what he says at St. Benedictine's commencement speech, those are his. I can't say I agree with the majority of it or just about any of it outside of just him loving his family and his kids, and I don't think that I should judge him by his views, especially his religious views of how to go about life. That's just not who I am. I genuinely really liked Travis's statement. His brother said something very similar. Like his brother went on to say, there's always going to be opinions that everybody shares that you're going to disagree with. Another one of his teammates, Patrick Mahomes, who's like also uber famous in that world, came and made a very similar statement. And I quite like the fact that his team are supporting him for who he is and who they know him to be, even though they don't agree with his opinions. And I think the reason that his speech in general was so divisive is because it is perceived to be quite regressive. The reason is he goes on to speak a lot about IVF being unnatural and that it shouldn't be happening, about same-sex relationships are not natural in God's eyes and in his eyes. He doesn't believe in contraception. If you can't have children, naturally you shouldn't be going down the IVF route.
Oh, yeah. There were lots of things in there that I think...
A lot of shit.
If you listen to the full 20-minute speech, will rile a lot of people up.
So this brings us to the question that we wanted to speak about today. Can you have a relationship with people, friendships, associations, work colleagues, romantic relationships? Can you have these relationships with someone that you feel so strongly about different views, political or religious or whatever it seems to be? And I personally quite like Jason and Travis's statement on their podcast. I like a lot of the other teammates from the Chiefs came out and showed their support, but said they didn't necessarily agree with their views. And I think personally, I feel the same way. There is a huge part of me that detests this guy and every single thing he said. Absolutely. And the reason is myself perceives his speech to be quite regressive, and I think a lot of the population that probably aren't heavily Catholic perceive it to be quite regressive. And now I do want to say a lot of Catholic population, because there are some people that are Catholic that don't necessarily agree with what he said. But the key word here is perceived. It's how we view his opinion and his thoughts. And this is where it gets really tricky and a little bit muddy. Harrison went on to say a lot of other shit, like that is so cooked. Things about how IVF isn't natural, and if you can't conceive naturally, you shouldn't be having children, which I think is so wrong on so many levels. And obviously that leads into the LGBTQI community and the fact that it would stop anyone else from same-sex relationships going on to have children. Highly offensive. I see those views to be so backwards. But I think the important thing here is to try and understand why someone says or believes what they do. And I think that this is where the difference comes in. Harrison said a lot of other things that were very confronting that he said, and there are a lot of things that I found to be almost like subliminal messaging, little tiny little things that I quipped and picked up, and I don't know if you picked them up, Laura, but even things when referring to, in his speech, in Harrison's speech, he made a statement about Taylor Swift, but he didn't say her name. Instead of using her name, who is one of the most, I think she is the most successful artist of our time, he said, my teammate's girlfriend. And then he quoted what she said. He didn't even give her a name, and that's because she's out there earning the big bucks. She's out there absolutely killing it as a woman, empowering people instead of being at home, being a mother and a child bearer. But do I think he deserves the hate and backlash that he's getting? Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, it was interesting because I put up we made a satirical video when this speech started to go viral in the media. And the way that Instagram works is really interesting because originally when it pushes out that type of content, when you create something, it goes out to your immediate audience. And usually your immediate audience has similar views and values to you. That's the reason why they're following you.
Or they hate follow you.
Well, or they hate follow you. So originally the response to my video, which was just basically a stab at what his speech was. It was all people being like, yes, oh my God, this is outrageous. And it was all very supportive. That video kind of went semi-viral. So it's had 1.6 million views. It's been shared 13,000 times. It's had, 2,500 plus comments on it. So originally all the comments were like in support of me. And then over the last couple of weeks, what I've noticed is that the algorithm has spat that piece of content out beyond my network. And once it moved
to the Catholic network,
literally, once it moved beyond my network, I realized how much hate I was receiving for something that was criticizing his views and criticizing his values. I mean, I think about what Travis Kelce's come out and said, and he's obviously got to work alongside Harrison. He has to have an amicable team environment alongside Harrison. And I think that there is value in him saying, because he would have been forced to make a public statement, the backlash he would have been receiving would have also been relentless. But I think that there is so much value in being able to say, I see that this person is a good person for XYZ reasons, but their values do not align with my own values. And I think it's important to acknowledge that because we do sometimes live in a society that tells us that you cannot be friends with people who don't have the same political views with you, or you cannot be friends with people
Of a
who
different
think
opinion.
XYZ because they're anti-feminist or they're racist or they're sexist. And we can be very black and white with how we approach these sorts of conversations. And even with Ask Uncut, we get so many people who write in and ask like, oh, my boyfriend or my girlfriend believes this. Is that a massive red flag because I have very different views to them? And I think it's tricky to give like a very black and white answer to this, because I think sometimes it can be a massive red flag. But in other situations, when it comes to friendships or relationships, people are not always entirely their political views or entirely their religious views. We're made up of many parts of ourselves. And so I guess it comes down to a big question around how much it affects your friendship, the views in which you're the person that you're having a relationship holds, but also how much you care about those values as to whether you can navigate a friendship or co-working alongside that person, or still have respect for that person if they have alternate views to you.
I can't stress enough how much I think it is so important for people to have their own ideas and their own opinions. Otherwise, we live in a world of sycophants and an echo chamber where everyone agrees with everyone. There's no conversation, there's no learning, there's no progression, there's no change. Nothing.
There's no challenging and no debate.
100%. The byproduct of debate and challenging people is learning. And you do have to be, as a person, I believe, open to having your opinion changed. Once you have all the information that you need about something to formulate an opinion, I think it's so important to have your views swayed if presented in the right way. I've changed my mind about things multiple times. And I think that you can have relationships with people where you differ in your religious views. I've had a relationship with somebody with a completely different religion, and it's fine, as long as it doesn't become dangerous and damaging to those around you. This is where I think Harrison's speech goes wrong. His messaging, I believe, is fine if you're just talking to your friends and you don't believe in contraception, fine. If you're not hurting anyone else, whatever. You want to have your kids, your wife wants to only stay at home and be a mother. If that's what she wants to do, that's incredible if that's what everyone is choosing to do in that situation. But when you're given the influence and the platform that he is given, the Chiefs football team in America is like the holy grail. It is like God. People look at them for guidance. They look at them with respect. They look at them for inspiration. So when you have a platform that big and now your speech has gone around the world and it is damaging to people, you can help sway laws in states in America with these speeches. This is, for me, where it's fundamentally wrong and where my non-negotiables and my boundaries about whether I can maintain a friendship with someone, this is where it starts for me. And I think that's the question you need to ask when you're in a relationship with someone or you have a friendship group. What are your non-negotiables that you know you will never, ever sway on and that you will tolerate in a friendship? And I think tolerate is the word here.
I think, and I don't want to just keep referring back to this Harrison speech, because I think it's important for us to kind of like zoom out and look at it in terms of like how we navigate our friendships and our relationships in our own lives. But the only thing I want to say in defense to him, which is weird for me to be sitting here and to be kind of like, okay, playing devil's advocate, because I don't agree with, it doesn't align with my values. But the context of which the speech was said in, he has said it to people who share similar views and values to him. And
at a Catholic college.
At a Catholic college. And it's been reported that he received a standing ovation for that speech. So it's interesting when you take something out of context. So that's now made it onto social media where those views and ideologies can be challenged by people who don't hold those values. But when you put it back into the context to which that speech was said, the people who it's being said to share similar ideas. And so
yeah, that's why he was asked to give the speech.
Totally. And that's really important. I think that context is so, so important. The only thing that I think is also really, it's not the only thing, but it is something I think is really belittling, is part of that speech said that a woman's vocation being a wife and a mother, that's when a woman's life truly starts. And that's just so belittling, not even just to people who don't choose it, but to people who can't have children and can't, make those choices for themselves or never get married. It's like, does their life never start because they never ever reproduced? Obviously, we have a lot of feelings about that. But I think going back to this idea of the people that you can and can't be friends with, this is a very privileged conversation for us to be able to even say, can you or can't you be friends with people who share political views? And the thing is that it really depends on how much those views affect your actual life. And what I mean by that is, and I heard this quote on an episode of The Hookup, the Triple J podcast, The Hookup. They said, don't fuck people who fuck you at the ballot box. And what they mean by that is don't be in a relationship.
Don't have public sex.
No, don't be in a
That's
relationship.
a joke.
No, don't be in a relationship with somebody whose values are going to fuck your life. I mean, we're talking about this as women who have the choice to care about the things that we want to care about. But imagine if you are someone who is from the LGBTQI community, your very existence is political, and you're best friends with someone who votes against the gay plebiscite. It's like, I think that you would feel very differently around whether or not you could maintain a friendship with someone who had different political views than if it was just with someone who has an alternate religious perspective, for example. I think that that's where it becomes more black and white to a lot of people. But I guess the other thing I wanted to say about this, and I think sometimes we talk about like the left versus right, and we can only want to surround ourselves with people who have similar values to us. But one of the examples I think is really interesting is, so for example, say that you are only friends with people who are left-wing, left-minded. You see that as progressive, and you have a real disdain for anyone who maybe votes for a different political party to you, won't date, won't be friends with people, and kind of cut those people out of your life. We can kind of sometimes move into a situation where we go, okay, well, the left is progressive and the right are sexist and racist and don't care about the environment, and we can really put people into silos. But what you don't start to unpack then is the nuance as to why people care and vote for the things that they care and vote for. So for example, somebody who might be voting for a right-winged party, they could have grown up with a farming family. They could have grown up with a working farming family whose very existence revolves around that type of infrastructure. That person's going to have a very different lived experience to someone who votes strongly for the Greens and is an environmentalist. But I think if we have a little bit more empathy and understanding for the reasons why people have the beliefs and have the ideologies that they have, it allows us to kind of meet in the middle with a place of empathy rather than creating this it's you versus us in the reasons why people choose to believe the things that they believe.
The key to maintaining any relationship when you have differing views is the understanding. If you can understand why, and then it's your choice if you're happy to stay in that relationship. Once you know somebody's true belief system, where it came from and how it was formed, then you can make a decision if you're happy to stay. Every person should have, I believe, their own non-negotiables that they know that they're not okay to bend in a relationship, and that's romantic and friendships. And like, just as an example, for me, mine for both friendships and relationships is gay marriage and the right to gay marriage. If you believe two people shouldn't be together because they are the same sex, for me, I can't get my head around that. And I will listen to your understanding, like maybe you've come from a very religious background. I will understand why you've said it because that's what you've been taught your whole life. But I don't have to be okay with it. And I think that's an example of drawing a line in the sand, saying I have too many people in my life that affects, that I wouldn't be able to happily stay in a relationship with someone that truly believes two people in love can't spend their life together.
Yeah, and I think everyone has those non-negotiables, but I think it's too simple for us to sit here and say, yes, you absolutely can be friends with people who have differing views, and no, you can't, because it is so dependent on what those views are, and it is so dependent on how those views directly affect your life. And I think like when it comes to religious beliefs, that for me, and I know that there are people who navigate it and have successful romantic relationships, but I think that that is a very challenging one to overcome. And the reason why I say that is because somebody has to compromise in that situation. Especially when we talk about within religion, there's this saying that you shouldn't be with someone who you are unequally yoked to. And that means that if you are religious, or I think this is more pertains to Christianity, but if you are Christian, being with someone who doesn't hold the same ideas as you, the same belief systems as you.
At the same level.
And doesn't have the same relationship with God, what that means is that it will impact your ability to be able to perform your duty to God in a way that is required of you.
Yeah.
So it's like they are not a good relationship and a good fit, because as much as you can respect someone's alternate values, those values will directly impact your ability to maintain and uphold your values, because you're supposed to be in a relationship together. So I do think that there are many instances where differing views make it impossible to maintain and have the intensity of some relationships, but it doesn't mean you can't be friends with these people. And I think sometimes the best place of learning comes from being friends with people who have different views with you, because you get into really good debates, and it either reinforces the reasons why you believe the things that you believe, or it challenges the way that you believe things and the reason why you believe things. And so I, like myself, I have many friends who I would say I like them as a person, but I do not share the same beliefs as them. But we have some of the most interesting conversations because of that very reason. And the debates are fierce, but they're done in a way that's respectful. And even though we walk away from those debates not agreeing with each other, I do feel like I learn things which challenge me a little bit around why I feel the way I feel.
I dated someone for a few years that was Muslim, and I am not religious at all. The reason that was fine was because for him, his level of intensity, there were some differing views, but his level of intensity was just at the fact that he believed in the foundation of love and kindness. Like that is a key part of the Muslim religion. Then obviously, depending on what intensity you are with your religion, it goes into a whole lot of other stuff. That is something that we had to discover at the start of the relationship. Are we going to be able to work around that? Is he going to want my children to grow up in his religion? Like these are the things that you need to ask yourself before you get into a serious relationship with someone. My brother-in-law Jay is Sikh and my sister is not, but that's fine and it works because he's not really practicing. Like he believes in it, but it's, you know, they had an Indian Sikh wedding. They also had an Australian wedding. Like they have learned to meet halfway.
The compromises.
That's why their relationship works. So I think that absolutely relationships can work when you have different views, as long as together combined, you understand where each other are coming from and it's agreeable. If you start to develop any sort of resentment for your partner or your friend in their beliefs, that's where the problem is going to come in. But it comes back to what we said earlier. We've said it multiple times. It's so important to understand the why anyone thinks and feels like they do before you pass judgment on that person.
I would say, though, that there'd be so many people listening to this who have had very heated disagreements with their partners around conflicting views.
Oh, yeah.
And often, I mean, it's very easy to say, oh, I would never date someone who's got different political views to me. But how often are you sitting down on a very first date and going, cool, what are your beliefs in this, 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 and this? Often you'll catch feelings before you fully understand where people sit in terms of, in terms of what they believe and how they think. And then it's not until a big thing happens, whether it's reflected in society, whether there's a speech that goes viral, that you actually sit down with your partner and have a bit of a debate or an argy-bargy around what they think and how they feel. And often that's when you realize, oh my God, fuck, I'm dating someone who thinks XYZ. And I guess it's then navigating how important those views are to them and how they respond to you not sharing the same feelings, because some people can get really defensive and some people can become very belittling in how they communicate the things that they think and how they feel.
Do you think, Laura, social media has made it easier or harder to maintain a relationship with someone of differing views and values?
Harder, absolutely. And I say this because I have people who are on my social media who I am, you know, they're either acquaintances or I'm friends with, or they've been people who've been part of my life for like 20 years. I'm not going to just cut them out, but they share radically different political views to me. And I've had people contact me, like strangers contact me and say, how the fuck can you be friends with this person? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Firstly, friends, you've really managed to reduce a lot from just knowing that I follow someone. But just because I have someone in my orbit doesn't mean I believe their political stances, doesn't mean that I agree with the things they say. And I think sometimes we can draw a lot of conclusions, but I do think that there are people out there who have led us to believe that if somebody believes in something different to you, that you should cut them out of your life.
Yeah, what a boring life if we did that. Of course you can have your own opinions and you can go against the grain or go against their opinion. You can have an argument or a debate with them. You don't have to cut someone out of your life for one differing of you. You don't have to cancel someone online because you don't agree with one thing they've said.
I mean, you know, look, and there might be some things in your life that are the non-negotiables that mean you do have to cut someone out. Yeah. I understand that bar is going to sit differently for each person, but it does make me come back to a conversation we had so long ago. And I remember a review that was written. I was talking about my grandparents. My he's passed away now. My grandma is very elderly and has dementia. And I said, you know, they would say things back when I was in my 20s that I did not agree with. They voted for Pauline Hanson. I deeply did not agree with them. And this is not me making an excuse for them, but they grew up in a time that was very different to me, and they have very different political, social views. My grandfather was an immigrant as well. He immigrated from Italy and was absolutely bullied for being a quote unquote wog. Yet he still supported Pauline Hanson, which to me sounds crazy, but it's because it's almost like he felt like he earned his right to be in this country. And so I know, guys, I'm explaining how my now dead 90-something-year-old grandfather felt about it. I'm not saying I agree with him. But I remember having this conversation on the podcast and saying that I gave him more grace than what I would someone who's my age. And that's because, one, he's my papa and I didn't want to cut him out of my life because he was like my dad. And two, because even though he believes something doesn't mean I have to. And I remember this review where someone was like, Laura's making excuses for racists. And I was like, wow. No, what I'm doing is just trying to have empathy for someone who I love, who I don't want to cut out of my life.
And who you know and believe 90% of the rest of what he believes. He's a good human who raised you, who did wonderful things and said wonderful things. He has one point of view that differs wholeheartedly to you.
That I radically disagree with.
Exactly.
But the thing I always think of, and I know that it's almost a privileged place to be like, oh, cut all these people out. But imagine you get to a point in your life as a parent, if you become a parent and you decide to have children, where we are in our 50s or in our 60s and we have grown-up children who have agency and choice. How do you navigate the situation when your children have different political views to you? How do you navigate the situation when your children have different religious views to you? Do you cut them out of your life? Do you decide that they're people that you don't want to be around or speak to anymore because they don't believe the things that you believe? And it's going to be a very real and possible situation that our kids don't agree with us in the same way that we often don't agree with our parents. I think that there are some relationships in life that you almost sometimes have to put down your disagreements in order to cohabitate in a way that leads with love and empathy. So yeah, I have a lot of feelings around this, but I think we're always going to have relationships in life with people who don't agree with us, and it's how we navigate through them, whether we can coexist alongside them.
But every relationship you have in life, you will never, ever meet somebody where you wholeheartedly agree with every single thing that they say and believe in. It is impossible for two humans to have the same perspective, identical perspectives on everything in life. It's never going to happen. You need to have some leeway when you meet somebody for their feelings, their thoughts, and their belief systems. Otherwise, go live in a hut alone in Antarctica, because if you cut every single person out that you don't agree with, there's going to be no one left. You're never going to learn, grow, or be challenged. I just think we need to be a little bit more open-minded, and I think it takes a really strong person to not want to go and attack someone immediately when they don't believe in it, to really sit back and listen to somebody's train of thought, listen to someone's reasoning and say, I'm going to agree to disagree with you. Still love you. See you next week for coffee.
It is time for Accidentally Unfiltered. And now we've received a couple of great ones, but I saw something on Instagram the other day and it was a reel that has gone absolutely viral. And this poor woman's literal accidentally unfiltered story was, I think for me, you know how we used to be back in the day? You used to be worried about accidentally liking someone's photo or accidentally commenting something on Facebook, like the time when I
did it like 100 times.
Well, yeah, like the time that I updated my status with my boyfriend at the time's ex-girlfriend's name, because the search bar and the status bar were so close to each other.
Yeah.
And I wrote Sophie and wanted my life to end, because how do you explain that to your boyfriend?
I did
How
the
do you
same
explain
thing.
that that's my status?
I had the guy that I was seeing, and then I was trying to stalk his new girlfriend, and I just friend requested her. Didn't know her. She lived in a different country.
What's wrong with us? Okay, so strap yourself in. This woman was bitching to a colleague about a person that she works with, right? So she was talking about this woman who they're both in the same department, they both work together, who she has a couple of problems with, unbeknownst to the woman who she has the problems with. Let's just call her Sarah Jane. So she's bitching about Sarah Jane, describing all the things that she hates about working alongside her. And then all of a sudden, her Apple Watch tells her that the message has been sent.
To Sarah
The
Jane.
message dictated her entire bitchy conversation and sent it to the person that she was talking about. And I think that this is how robots are coming back to fuck us. It's not what Will Smith said. They're not here to end the world. They're just here to ruin our lives.
Do you remember that time?
Imagine.
This has just hit me. There was that time that you and I were sitting on my lounge at my house, and there was the guy that I had started seeing. And remember, we'd said his name, and we started talking a lot of personal stuff. And my phone had dictated the whole thing to him. And I looked down, and the message was about to send. Do you want to press send? And I had an aneurysm. I was like, ah!
It was in Instagram and it was a voice recording. We'd
The
voice
whole thing,
recorded
our
our
whole
entire
conversation.
thing.
Oh, I'm dying thinking about that.
I
Oh
love
my
these sorts
God.
of stories. I mean, we rely on technology for so much, but I also love hearing the times when it's totally fucked your life. Hope you're okay. R.I.P.
I know someone recently, you've just made me think of this, that did this worse at work, was typing all these things they didn't like about a work colleague to another. They were having a bitching session.
And they sent it to them.
They sent it to the person that they didn't like.
You got to be careful. That's like a Freudian slip where you're doing something,
It's so
but because
bad.
you're writing about the person, you think you're sending it to someone else, but you send it to them.
I guess this is the thing, right? Let's just not bitch at the end of the day.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Okay,
Wouldn't it?
I've got one. And this is something we have all done. I have a friend who has been single for a while who I'm always looking out for eligible bachelors for. I really want to hook them up. There is a guy I work with and we both have agreed is an absolute babe. She would be good with him. He's a bit of a shy, introverted type, and she was telling me she doesn't know what to talk to him about. We were out drinking one night and I was trying to give her the pep talk of a lifetime, telling her to be bold and ask him out for a drink. I picked up my phone and went through to find some work-related phone texts that I had had with him from months ago. I was trying to go back and look at some talking points that she could use with him because she just had no idea what to talk about. At this stage, it's about 12:30 a.m. and as I was scrolling, I had love heart reacted to a random message back from October. I quickly deleted it and then called my friend over to work out if you get notifications from iPhone messages when you react to something. We learned that not only do you get a notification, but you also get a notification when you unlike it. So at 12:30 from 6 months before to a work colleague, she's love-hearted his photos and then unliked them and he got both of those messages. Would you not die?
I wouldn't die. I wouldn't. I would be okay. I
But
would
you'd be like,
continue in my life.
Why is
but
that person stalking my messages from like 6 months ago?
But you know that when someone's liked a message or something from like, well, I don't know, does it tell you from when though that they've liked it? It just says it's
Yes,
liked.
it comes up with a love heart.
But if you've unliked it, you'll just have a notification saying that person liked a message and then you'll get another notification saying that they've unliked it. So it could have just been
you don't know which one.
the message from yesterday. He doesn't know that it was from a message from October.
Yeah, but what if he saw the like and he was like, wow, that's weird. And then he saw it unlike and he's like, oh, they've taken it back. Is it worse to take the heart back? Like, do you just commit to the heart from 6 months ago about the coffee that you had in your lunch break?
This is why it's great to have children because I just blame everything on my kids. I just say, oh, sorry, my kids had my phone. Sorry, my kids are bitching about you.
What do I do? What do I do when I do that?
Delilah had my phone.
Yeah, but it's the voice automated text. They're like, it was your text, Laura. We can hear your voice.
Delilah was talking bad. Delilah was talking smack again. All right, it's time for Suck and Sweet for the week. Britt, I think that your sweet's going to be the fact that Ben gets here tonight. Even though it hasn't happened, I feel like that you're preempting your sweets. But what is your suck and what is your sweet?
My suck is that, and I think it's going to turn into a sweet. My suck is a very simple one this week, but my plant in my garden, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it's a beautiful, I don't know what it's called.
It's called a Monstera.
Monstera.
I've got a
And
bone to pick with you.
It's overgrown. Hang on. Don't you guys both shake your heads at me? My Monstera has overgrown to a ridiculous, like it is crawling along the ground. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this? Can I cut it? Do I have to put a stake in it? Do I have to put it in another pot plant?
Before you unpack this, I have a bone
No,
to pick
that's
with
it.
you.
It doesn't go further.
Why
than that.
wouldn't you ask me?
I did.
I know
on
everything.
I did ask you. You don't watch my Instagrams. I asked you on Instagram.
No, I replied. You asked everyone. And I was like, Brittany, you could send me a message.
That is calling you out. That means you didn't listen to it because I specifically in my Instagram said Laura Byrne, your full name, first and
Did
second
you?
name. Yeah, I mean, I can show you it. Yes, I did. I
just
called you
saw-
out.
I just saw plant people and I was
No,
like,
I said Laura Byrne. I said Laura Byrne, your exact name.
I was like, you have a free plant person in your life
Well, come
and I'm
and do
here.
it then. I don't want
Okay,
your
your-
advice. I want someone to come to my house and fix it.
Your Monstera needs a stake because it's a plant that
know.
needs emotional support and physical support in its
So
life.
do I. No one's staking me.
It needs someone to climb up. Ben will stake you tonight and you will
And
be
I will climb up, Ben.
emotionally supported.
I will do the climbing. I was like, baby.
So
The
yes,
Monstera.
do you know what? You say that the Monstera is your suck, but to be fair, I'm pretty sure the Monstera would say that you're their suck. It's reaching out. It's trying to get some support in its life and you're not giving it any.
Yeah, he's still thriving though. And my sweet 100% hasn't happened yet, but it's happening in 6 hours, Benny's coming, and I'm very excited. That's my sweet. You're going to hear all about it. I apologize in advance for the next month that he's here and that I'm here. We're gallivanting. We're having fun. We're having adventures. We're making memories. We have our Polaroid and our Polaroid book. That's the cute little thing that we do. Ben has bought so many Polaroids. I think we have 100 Polaroids to make in our book, and you guys are going to hear all about it. So sorry, not sorry.
I can't wait to hear what the shrine looks like after the next 3 weeks.
The shrine's pathetic.
The shrine is evolving, everyone. Stay tuned. My suck for the week. Do you know what? I know that we're not supposed to do this, but I've had a really, really great week. Like we went down to Mollymook for the weekend. So I'm going to start with my sweet. We had such a good time. We went back to, like I said, we went back to where we got married. It was so beautiful. Matt and I had some proper couple time, which means we've had sex twice in the last week, and he's happy and everything is good. It's so funny. We were sitting at lunch the other day and he said, I've put it together. And I was like, oh yeah. He's like, I know what it is. And I was like, what are you talking about?
I'm happier with sex.
He's like, I feel happier when we have sex. And I was like, that's great, Matt. I'm really glad that you came to that realization. He's like, no, but like when we haven't had sex for a long time, I think that there's something wrong. He's like, but then when we do have sex a lot, he's like, I'm just content. Life is good. So, I mean, that's a lesson for everyone, isn't it?
He's a simple man.
He's a simple man. I know. It kind of goes against everything that we teach on this podcast, but
no, because sex is important.
He's reinforcing stereotypes and thank God for that. Yeah. So anyway, we had a great weekend, really great time, family-wise, couple-wise, parenting-wise. It was just a lot of goals in that respect. And I would say that the only suck, but it's going to be my suck ongoing, is on the way home, we went and saw Neil and spent some more time down in Wollongong, and it's just awful. It's just awful because it is exactly as we described it the other week. It's that long goodbye. And I think because Neil is so sick, it is really hard to sit in the trivial things. Like there's been lots of stuff that's happened lately that normally I would go, oh, that's my suck, or that's my suck. Like breaking down, paying to get my car fixed. Like there's been so many small things that are life inconveniences. But then every time I go down to Wollongong and I spend time with my mum and I see Neil, I'm like, why are we complaining? They don't compare.
Yeah.
So that, in itself.
Perspective is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it really is. But anyway, guys, that is it from us. Britt, I'm so happy for you and I can't wait for the updates. Spare me the gory details, but I'm very, very happy. And
don't act like you don't want to know.
Oh, yeah. Tell me everything.
You're following me to Byrne Bay this weekend. So you can
wait to hear about that 2 minutes because that's probably all it's going to last for after 5 months.
Yeah, but that's only the first time. He'll back it up.
And you know the drill. Also, someone complained about our catch call. Tell your mum, tell your dad, tell your dog, tell your friends, and share the love because
the catch call's staying.
We love love!